Chapter 1, The Plaything Returns. Who am I? Boom. A pale flash of lightning tore through the ink-black clouds. Rain poured down in violent torrents, as if heaven itself were raging, drenching the muddy earth. In the rippling puddles, a crimson figure flickered and shattered. It was a young man clad in a blood-red opera robe, staggering drunkenly through the mud. His wide sleeves flapped wildly in the stormy wind. Rain washed away the dirt clinging to his robe, revealing a vivid red, so bright it seemed like blood, glowing fiercely against the darkness. Stop it. Stop it. Shut up. All of you. I'm about to remember. Soon. I'm going to remember. I have a name. A name that belongs to me. His wet black hair hung low over his brows, his eyes unfocused and lost. He dragged himself forward with difficulty, clutching his head, as if fighting to recall something buried deep within. His roar echoed through the empty streets, but didn't travel far before vanishing into the endless curtain of rain. Splash. In the dim light, he stumbled over a protruding stone and crashed hard to the ground. A streak of crimson blood trickled from his temple. He lay motionless, face down in the mud. Then suddenly, as if remembering something, a faint glimmer sparked in his hazy eyes. Chen Ling. A name flashed through his mind. At the moment he spoke those two words, a fragment of memory drifted out from the endless whispering that nearly split his skull, and merged with this frail body. What is this? Time travel? Chen Ling furrowed his brows, struggling to absorb the memories of this body. His mind felt as if it were being torn apart. His name was Chen Ling, 28 years old, an apprentice director at a theater in Beijing. After the performance ended that day, he had stayed alone on stage, choreographing the actors' movements. Then a violent earthquake struck. He felt a sharp pain above his head, and then nothing. Now, thinking back, he probably died from being hit by a falling spotlight. At the same time, Chen Ling was slowly piecing together the memories of this body. What shocked him was that the original owner of this body also bore the name Chen Ling, but their fundamental understanding of the world was completely different. Fragmented memories clashed violently within his mind, and Chen Ling felt like his skull might explode. He kept taking deep breaths, fighting to pull himself up from the ground. His costume was stained with black and red patches, utterly disheveled. For some reason, his body felt incredibly heavy, like he'd been up for 4 or 5 days straight writing scripts, drained of every ounce of energy. Just go home. Exhausted and mentally shattered, he could barely think. He could only follow the instinct of this body, stumbling toward home. Though he didn't know how he'd gotten here, the original owner's memories included this place. Every day after tending to his younger brother at the clinic, he'd walk this route back. Normally, it took just 2 or 3 minutes. But for him now, the journey felt longer than ever before. Rainwater, icy and piercing, streamed down Chen Ling's body. His whole frame trembled uncontrollably. After struggling through the downpour for 10 minutes, shivering with cold and exhaustion, he finally reached the front door, the one from his memories. Chen Ling fumbled in his pockets, realizing he had no key. So, as if by instinct, he reached beneath the newspaper box beside the door and pulled out a spare key. The door creaked open. Creak. Warm light spilled from inside, flooding the dark rainy night, illuminating a corner of the world, and Chen Ling's pale, hollow face. At the sight of that light, his tightly wound nerves relaxed naturally. The chill and fatigue on his body seemed to fade, just a little, in the glow of that single lamp. He stepped into the house. 2 figures sat across the dining table, their eyes red-rimmed, as if they'd just been crying. The sound of the door opening startled them. They froze, then both turned at once. Dad. Mom. I'm home. Chen Ling, his head heavy and dazed, instinctively reached for the door mat to change shoes, but realized he'd never put any on. His bare feet were caked in mud, toes and soles nearly blocked by grime. He'd already left 2 big, dark footprints on the floor. The 2 figures at the table stared, stunned, at the red-clad Chen Ling stepping through the doorway. Their pupils widened in shock. You. The man swallowed hard, his jaw twitching. His mouth hung open, like he'd seen a ghost. Mom. Is there water at home? I'm so thirsty. Once inside, Chen Ling's tension snapped completely. His mind was slipping into unconsciousness. Muttering to himself, he staggered toward the kitchen, grabbed the water jug from the dispenser, and began gulping it down hungrily. Finally, the bucket was emptied. Chen Ling wiped his mouth with the back of his hand, set the bucket down, then turned around and walked toward his bedroom. One black footprint after another leaving a trail across the floor. Stumbling as he went. Dad, Mom. You should get to bed too. Good night. He mumbled something indistinct, shut the door behind him with a thud, followed by a heavy thump as something landed on the bed. The living room fell into silence. Long moments passed before those 2 figures, frozen like statues, slowly turned their heads, locking eyes with each other. The flickering wick steadied. The eerie kerosene light barely illuminated the dim room. They sat trembling in their chairs, faces pale, drained of all color. He came back. The man rasped. How is this possible? If he really is Lingxing, then who did we kill last night? Chapter 2, We're watching you. Is it a ghost? Torrential rain pounded against the cold window. Their hearts trembled like flames in a dying lamp. I don't know, the woman swallowed hard. Should we call the enforcers? You're insane. Hearing the words enforcers, the man snapped back to reality, panic-stricken. If the enforcers get involved, our secret will be exposed. No way. Absolutely not. But what about him? The woman paused, then said hesitantly, You don't think the corpse of Ling is possessed by some kind of calamity, do you? Both of them turned toward the tightly shut bedroom door, and silence fell again. After a long moment, the man seemed to make up his mind. He took down a black raincoat from the doorway and stepped out. Where are you going? To the place where we buried the body. Now? Why now? To verify. Rain trickled down the man's pale face as he spoke hoarsely. No matter what's in that room right now, it can't possibly be Ling. I have to see the corpse with my own eyes. I'm coming with you. No one wanted to go out in this stormy weather, but facing the unknown thing sleeping inside the bedroom was worse. Under the heavy rain, 2 figures in raincoats hurried away. Bedroom. Chen Ling, already deep in sleep, suddenly gave a faint tremble, his eyelashes fluttering, as if trapped in a nightmare. In his dream, his consciousness sank deeper, as though falling into an endless abyss. After who knows how long, he finally landed on something hard, regaining his balance. Done. 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 A dull mechanical sound echoed, followed by a beam of light slicing through the darkness, converging on a figure dressed in red. Chen Ling instinctively raised his hand to shield his eyes. Where is this? His foggy mind slowly cleared. As his eyes adjusted to the harsh light, he looked around, bewildered. Within the beam of light, he could only see his own crimson theatrical robe, the creaky old wooden floor beneath his feet, and a corner of black curtain behind him, also illuminated by the beam. Beyond the light lay endless unknowns and darkness. Seeing this scene, Chen Ling suddenly froze. It was as if something clicked in his mind. He squinted upward, staring at the beam that lit him, originating from spotlights fixed to steel frames above. A stage? As a theater director currently working in a theater, Chen Ling knew stages better than anyone. In his previous life, even up until the moment he was crushed by a falling light, he'd been meticulously studying stage positions. His understanding of the stage surpassed even many actors. So his first thought now was that he'd somehow returned again. But no. The lighting in the theater where he'd died before was far superior. The curtains weren't black, and the floor wasn't this worn-out wooden one. Was he dreaming? Chen Ling cautiously took a step forward. The old floor groaned loudly. As he began to step out of the light, another beam instantly followed his movement, plunging into the darkness behind him. Follow spot? Chen Ling's heart skipped a beat. Instinctively, he called out. Who's there? These lights were tracking him, almost certainly controlled by someone. Unless an automated follow spot system was used here, but judging by how old the stage looked, that was almost impossible. Who's there? Who's there? In there. Chen Ling's voice echoed through the dark, growing increasingly eerie and chilling. At the same time, a digital screen along the edge of the stage suddenly lit up. In stage design, this spot is usually reserved for teleprompters, to prevent performers or hosts from forgetting their lines. But now, the screen displayed a string of red characters. Audience expectation, 29%. In the bottom left corner, a few small words read. Please don't let audience expectation drop below 20%. Otherwise, the theater cannot guarantee the performer's safety. Seeing this screen, Chen Ling felt utterly confused. Audience? Where on earth are the audience? Ding, ding, ding. The familiar sound of lights switching on echoed again. The darkness in front of the stage receded like a tide. Hundreds of wooden chairs stretched out in tiered rows into the distance, packed tightly around the stage. The audience seats. Those three words flashed in Chen Ling's mind. It made perfect sense, a stage with an audience. What truly sent chills down his spine wasn't that. It was the fact that, without him noticing, the audience seats were already filled with audience. Each one a humanoid figure shrouded in shadow. Even under bright lights, Chen Ling couldn't make out their forms, like embodiments of the abyss. Only one thing stood out, their eyes. Countless crimson pupils opened in the dim light. They sat motionless in their wooden chairs, staring at Chen Ling on stage, like a pack of cats cornering a mouse, their gazes mocking and hungry. Chen Ling felt cold creeping up his neck. He had no idea what these audiences were. Whatever they were definitely not human. Bang! Chen Ling shot upright in bed. The sheets were soaked with cold sweat, his chest heaving violently, eyes wide with terror. He swallowed hard, slowly scanning the room, and finally relaxed when he confirmed he was in his own bedroom, not that damn stage. Was it just a dream? This dream was way too freaky. After calming down, he got up and walked into the living room. The rain outside had mostly stopped, but the sky remained dark and gloomy. Chen Ling called out for Mom and Dad, but no one answered. The house was silent. Did they leave for work this early? He rubbed his hollow stomach. The nightmare from last night seemed to have drained all his strength, his legs felt like they were floating. With no choice, he headed to the kitchen to find something to eat. Just as he stepped inside, he tripped over something. Looking down, he saw the remains of a bucket, like it had been gnawed by some wild animal. What happened to this bucket? Did freezing weather crack it? Chen Ling couldn't remember anything from last night. He muttered suspiciously in his mind, then pushed the broken bucket aside into the corner and grabbed a rag to wipe up the spilled water. As he crouched down, he froze. The puddle on the floor began to move on its own, like a shadowless figure crouched across from him, using a fingertip to write something in the water. In an instant, the clear liquid visibly turned crimson. A twisted, eerie message formed right before Chen Ling's eyes. We're watching you. Chapter 3, The Omen. Chen Ling's pupils suddenly contracted. But when he blinked, the blood-red characters on the floor vanished instantly, as if they had never existed. A hallucination? Chen Ling stood frozen in place, those words etched into his mind, impossible to forget. "We're watching you." Chen Ling suddenly turned his head. In the empty living room, it felt as though countless invisible crimson eyes were staring at him, just like in a nightmare. He remained rigid, statue-like. For a long moment, forcing himself to breathe deeply. Maybe I'm just exhausted from pulling all-nighters preparing for the enforcer exam. My mind's too tense. But this was the original owner of this body, nothing to do with me. Could it be something went wrong during the soul fusion? Damaged my mind? I've heard severe schizophrenia can cause hallucinations that are nearly indistinguishable from reality. Chen Ling pushed back the fear gnawing at his mind, trying to rationalize it all with science. Then, hunger surged through him. He grabbed a grilled sausage off the cutting board and devoured it in a few quick bites, finally feeling slightly more grounded. Maybe I need to see a psychiatrist. Startled and too drained to even wash his face, Chen Ling hastily threw on a black cotton coat and rushed out the door. Even so, the cold air rushing through the door made Chen Ling shiver. This was the first time since regaining consciousness that he truly confronted the world. He took a deep breath, preparing himself for whatever unknowns and hardships lay ahead. But when he accidentally looked up at the sky, a startled "holy crap" slipped out before he could stop it. Morning light spilled from the east, weaving delicate blue ribbons across the sky above the small town, ethereal, dreamlike, close enough to touch yet impossibly distant. Aurora. An aurora in broad daylight. Chen Ling stood at his doorstep, staring in silence at the vast display of lights, murmuring to himself. What kind of world is this? Damn it, why is this path so damn hard to walk? The weather's too cold, and it rained all night, now the mountain trail's frozen solid. Be careful. Dragging our feet all the way, and now it's already dawn. The man wiped sweat from his brow. How much farther? That graveyard ahead should be right there. Two wobbly figures climbed over the ridge, finally spotting the cluster of mounds ahead. Some were fresh, others old, most lacking tombstones, just wooden markers or personal belongings left haphazardly at the base. But after last night's downpour, many mounds had been washed away. And wooden stakes and scattered items littered the ground, leaving the place in utter chaos. What neither of them expected was that the graveyard was now cordoned off with yellow police tape, and a dozen figures moved solemnly within the perimeter, their faces grim. Enforcers? Seeing their striking black and red outfits, the man's eyes widened. How could they be here? Have they found us? The woman's face turned pale. Is it Liling? Did he go to the enforcers? Is he really still alive? They thought they'd killed Chen Ling, yet he returned the next day, then suddenly, enforcers appeared at the burial site. There was no other explanation. No. The man stared intently at the figures. The enforcers from Sector 3, even for a criminal case, they'd only send 3 at most. To see more than 10 like this, it can only mean the cataclysm has appeared? The woman froze, cold sweat instantly soaking her back. Could that monster in the bedroom be it? Run. The man grabbed her wrist and turned to flee. At that moment, a cold voice echoed from nearby. Stop. Their bodies locked rigid. An enforcer crawled through the barricade and slowly approached them, eyes narrowing slightly. Who are you? What are you doing here? I. The woman stammered, unable to speak. We came to see our son, the man said, trying to stay calm. He's buried here. Today's his Memorial Day. Then why run? Because we're afraid. Afraid? Sending out so many enforcers at once, does that mean the Grey Realm intersects here, right? The man swallowed hard. Who knows? Maybe some calamity crawled out from inside. We don't want to get caught in the crossfire. Oh? You seem to know more than you should. The enforcer raised an eyebrow, surprised. The man forced a pale smile. Enforcer sir, the woman asked hesitantly, is it true that a calamity actually escaped from the Grey Realm? That's classified. The enforcer replied coolly. You can't visit your son today. Go home. Whatever you saw here, no talking about it. You know the rules, right? Yes, yes. Let's go. Hearing those words, the man finally exhaled in relief and turned to leave immediately. Wait. Their hearts skipped a beat. Give me your names and addresses. The enforcer pulled out a pen and paper. Standard confidentiality protocol. Please understand. Chen Tan, Li Shouchuan. 128 Hanchuang Street, District 3. After recording it, the enforcer let them go. He then stepped past the yellow caution tape, approaching a man in a black coat, and handed over the file. Meng, confirmed. They came to see their son. Han Meng took a drag on his thick cigarette, inhaling deeply. The pungent smoke mixed with his breath, drifting into the cold wind. He glanced briefly at the document, then spoke calmly. Send someone to follow them quietly. There's something off about them. Huh? Snowfrost Street is at least 10 or more kilometers away. If they arrived here at this time, they must have left no later than 4 in the morning. And the rain hadn't stopped yet. Who would brave a downpour in the dark to come up here for a memorial? And besides, this is a common grave, where people with no family or those who died far from home are buried. How could parents possibly bury their child here? The enforcer froze, then smacked his forehead. Right. Why didn't I think of that? Xiaoqin, how did you even pass the enforcer exam back then? The enforcer called Xiaoqin let out 2 awkward laughs and quickly changed the subject. Hey Minga, so did any calamity actually crawl out from the ash realm last night? Han Meng didn't answer. Instead, he pulled out a palm-sized device from an inner pocket of his coat. In the center was a needle-like compass mechanism, with different colored markings indicating distinct zones, clear and precise. Is this the calamity compass? Jiangqin asked, curious, reaching out to touch it. His hand was sharply slapped. This thing's priceless. You'll get to handle it yourself when you become an enforcer. Jiangqin rubbed his sore wrist with a bitter grimace. So how exactly does it work? This detects the danger level of calamities. Once activated, whichever zone the needle points to indicates the scale of calamity fluctuations nearby. If it's just a simple convergence between the ash realm and reality, with no actual calamity crossing over, the device won't react. The higher the calamity level, the more violently the needle shakes. Jiangqin nodded, a hint of worry in his voice. Monk. Could there really be an eclipse crawling out from somewhere? Highly unlikely. If there had actually been an eclipse arriving through here yesterday, the second and third zones would have already descended into chaos. That's good to hear. For safety's sake, we still need to run the check. As Han Meng spoke, he activated the eclipse detector. The other enforcers nearby glanced over curiously. 1 second. 2 seconds. 3 seconds. The detector remained completely silent. Just as Han Meng exhaled in relief, the compass needle suddenly jolted violently. It swept wildly across the colored zones, emitting a piercing screech from within the device. Han Meng's pupils contracted sharply, his hand instinctively released the eclipse detector. Boom! A shower of shattered parts exploded into the air. The jagged tip of the broken needle grazed Han Meng's cheek, leaving a deep crimson gash. The eclipse detector had blown up. Chapter 4 They exist. Achoo! In the biting wind, Chen Ling sneezed violently. Having lived in the north before, even she struggled to cope with this weather, cold, damp, and utterly lifeless. Despite the bright sun overhead. Move it! Move it. A lazy voice echoed from ahead. Chen Ling snapped back to attention, instinctively stepping aside onto the roadside. At the end of the road, a tricycle was slowly approaching. A teenage boy was riding it, while another sat on the back seat, with two large barrels of salt beside him. He scooped up some salt with a spoon and scattered it onto the icy road. As the salt fell, the frost began to melt. "Hey, Chen Ling?" The boy scattering salt glanced over and raised an eyebrow at Chen Ling standing by the roadside. "Didn't expect to see the school genius here. You didn't pass the civil exam, did you? Or was it the physical one?" Seeing that face, a memory instantly came flooding back. His name was Zhao Yi. They'd grown up on the same street since childhood. But Zhao Yi had always been naturally envious. Back in high school, whenever Chen Ling's grades were good, Zhao Yi's mother would constantly compare him to Chen Ling, making Zhao Yi resent Chen Ling more and more. The written test was done. "There's still the physical one," Chen Ling said casually, standing by the side of the road. "Hee, well then, good luck with your exam." As he spoke, Zhao Yi scooped up a huge handful of salt and flung it forcefully toward the nearby road, right into Chen Ling, who stood right there. Salt dust flew everywhere, coating Chen Ling's hair and cotton robe. He hadn't expected such a trick. Quickly brushing the salt off, he turned around and glared at Zhao Yi. By then, Zhao Yi had already ridden off on the tricycle, swaying as he disappeared into the distance. One foot resting on the salt barrel, he stuck out his tongue and made a silly face at Chen Ling. Chen Ling, a 28-year-old man who'd long endured the harsh realities of life, felt a mix of annoyance and amusement at such a clumsy prank. But Chen Ling didn't plan to chase after that kid and give him a beating. She just quietly filed the incident away in her mind. Right now, she had more important things to do. Just as Chen Ling was about to take another step forward, her peripheral vision caught something on the ground beneath her feet, and she paused, slightly startled. The frost touching the salt crystals began to melt, leaving faint white traces behind. In that instant, a line of text seemed to weave itself into existence. Audience expectation, 27%. Before Chen Ling could react, the salt had completely dissolved. The moment vanished, as if it had been nothing but a fleeting illusion. She rubbed her eyes hard, muttering under her breath. "No way." A renewed sense of urgency surged through her. Without hesitation, she quickened her pace, rushing straight toward the clinic. A few minutes later, Chen Ling pushed open the clinic's door. Calling it a clinic was generous. It was just a two-story residential house on Frost Street, square and grayish, instantly reminding Chen Ling of the old homes back in her rural hometown. Yet this rough little building was actually one of the better ones on Frost Street. At least it had 2 floors and offered some shelter from the wind. "You're here again," said a man in a white coat, half turning from behind the wooden desk. "Come to pick up medicine for your brother? Isn't he supposed to be at the hospital in Zone 2 now? This time it's not a Haiyan. It's me." Chen Ling's younger brother had once stayed here for treatment, and he'd grown quite familiar with Dr. Lin. Now, she walked to the desk and sat down, her expression tense. "Oh? What's wrong with you?" My head just doesn't feel right." "It's a physical headache, or I've been having hallucinations lately." "Psychiatry?" Dr. Lin raised an eyebrow, adjusting his black-rimmed glasses with a serious expression. "That's my specialty. Tell me about your symptoms." "Last night, I had a dream. I was standing on a stage, with an audience below me. I couldn't see their faces, but they weren't human. I ran desperately across the stage, but I could never find an exit. Interpreting dreams isn't part of my practice." "I know," Chen Ling took a deep breath. "But when I woke up, I still felt like they were watching me." At that, Dr. Lin finally showed interest. "You're imagining being watched?" "Not quite like imagination. It's as if they're inside my mind, sitting in the audience, observing every move I make." I feel like a forced performer, just a tool to entertain them. So you're saying your life is a stage, and you're the only one on it? In a way, yes. But not as positive as you put it. And the audience? Besides watching you, do they do anything else? Chen Ling paused for a moment. I'm not sure if it's just my imagination. They seem to be able to affect things around me. Affect reality? That sounds a bit too surreal. Dr. Lin spoke while taking a sip from his teacup. Just as he was about to say more, his face suddenly twisted in shock. Spurt. Dr. Lin spat out a mouthful of crimson blood, splattering onto the floor. Dr. Lin? Chen Ling jumped in shock. What's wrong with you? No, it's not me. Dr. Lin wiped blood from his lip, blood that wasn't his. He frowned, thinking for a moment, then his eyes landed on the teacup at the corner of the table. Sometime during the past minute, the cup had filled completely with thick, viscous blood. Dr. Lin's face turned grim. He clearly remembered pouring a bag of pure tea into it just a minute ago. The clinic was empty except for him and Chen Ling. Chen Ling had been under his constant gaze the whole time, no chance, no motive to switch the tea. Yet this full cup of blood had appeared out of nowhere, like magic. Chen Ling suddenly paled as if he'd just realized something. As I said, he rasped, voice low. They might actually exist. Dr. Lin stared at the blood-filled cup for a long while before slowly turning to him. How long has this been going on? One day, Chen Ling paused. Since my mind cleared, just one day. And before that? What were you doing? A flash of memory surfaced, himself stumbling through a downpour last night. I don't know. I can't remember. So you're not sure when this started, and you have no memory before last night? Yes. Have you ever been possessed by the calamity? Dr. Lin pushed up his glasses. Or let me put it another way, last night. Did you encounter the Great Convergence?